Anyone can name the greatest scientists who ever lived. Let's see, there's Einstein and Galileo and Newton and Pasteur and, did we say Galileo already? That's the thing about scientists. Unlike the greatest dancers who ever lived, they can't sell tickets so that people can watch them work. Unlike the greatest artists who ever lived, they don't show off the results of their efforts in a gallery. Half the time, it wouldn't even be possible. How do you exhibit an insight, display an idea? Look, here's inertia. Over there, that's a helping of relativity. To the extent that we do recognize the scientists' names and achievements, it's often in a shorthand, know it for the final kind of way. Gregor Mendel, peas, right? Alexander Fleming, penicillin, the Leakey clan, they're those fossil people. But a deeper understanding, what about those peas exactly? How does penicillin work? Eludes even people who care about these things. In some ways, this anonymity is perfectly all right with the scientists themselves. You don't choose a career in which you will spend much of your life at a lab bench or at a chalkboard, investigating, exploring, lecturing about concepts so abstruse the jargon can be impenetrable, hoping to win fame. There are only a handful of people who are going to stay with you all the way through a conversation about the chemiosmotic gradient, Pontryagin duality, or quantum decoherence. And those people may have become as lost in the technical weeds as you have. But none of that means we ought to give ourselves a pass on learning about the great names of science, even if they're ones we've never heard. For one thing, we kind of owe it to them. You may not give a hoot about the likes of William Harvey, but once you know that he was the first physician to explain how the heart and the circulatory system move blood around the body, you come to realize that there's not a life-saving cardiovascular procedure that has ever been developed that doesn't have its roots in his work. A guy like that deserves at least a small tip of the hat. And isn't it just plain wonderful to consider that there was once a woman who figured out that if you turn biological molecules into crystals and then bathe them with X-rays, a blueprint of the molecule will come streaming out much the way a rainbow of colors explodes from a prism that's been hit with white light. The same is true of James Lovelock, the environmental scientist who developed the Gaia hypothesis, the idea that the entire biosphere, plants, microbes, hamsters, humans, is in some ways one vast, self-regulating, planet-wide organism. You are, each of us is, a single cell in the body of the world. Try not to feel part of nature now. If we owe it to the scientists to know a little bit about them, we owe it to ourselves too. There's just too much richness that we would miss otherwise. So you've never heard of Dorothy Hodgkin, much less the process of X-ray crystallography she developed. You're not alone, but isn't it fascinating? Sometimes scientific progress is a story of serendipity. Take Pierre-François Bouchard, who discovered a massive slab of granite in the wreckage of a picked-clean archaeological site, but just knew, there was something special about it, and so there was. That slab became known as the Rosetta Stone, which helped us decode the languages and cultures of the ancient Middle East. Sometimes it's an exercise in the obscure becoming iconic, as when James Watson, Francis Crick, and Rosalind Franklin told the world about the strange, twisted shape called the double helix, which had absolutely no meaning one day and became recognized as the very heart of all life the next. And sometimes the tales are ones that all by themselves capture the dizzy, drunken wonder of scientific discovery, as when archaeologist Howard Carter held a candle to a hole in the inner door of a tomb that belonged to an inconsequential pharaoh named Tutankhamun. Standing next to him, his sponsor and patron asked him if he could see anything. Yes, Carter responded with exquisite simplicity. Wonderful things. No list of science's greatest figures can hope to be comprehensive, but in the pages that follow, we make a run at it, surveying the giants in physics, mathematics, medicine, genetics, paleontology, astronomy, earth sciences, chemistry, archaeology, and social sciences. The stories of achievement are all, at bottom, stories of individuals, legendary and fallible, inspired and merely dogged, and that fact brings their work to life. Science, for too many of us, can be a keyhole into the darkness, much like the one Carter encountered. But the lives of the people who do the work can shed at least a single candle power's worth of light, and that can be just enough to reveal the treasures.